One health center in Plainfield, Vermont is working to overcome the barriers to rural health and provide high-quality care. The health center integrates new scientific research with compassion-based, person-centered care. Their successes can provide a model for rural healthcare across the country. Healthcare can often feel sterile, detached, and cold. Patients may feel disconnected from their healthcare providers and confused or paralyzed when navigating the various systems to pursue their own wellness. Rural healthcare presents its own challenges, making it even more difficult for some Vermonters to find high-quality care.
My experience at the VA was not a good one. I didn't feel like a person. I didn't feel like a patient. I felt like a statistic. I'd go in and they'd stare at the computer and ask me questions, the same questions. And based on my answers, they'd go, okay, well, we're going to put you on this medication, this medication, this medication. So I didn't feel like I was getting any treatment. I was just being medicated.
New Englanders and Vermonters have their personal pride and their sense of independence, and it's admirable. But the reality is that a lot of them have housing that's not as good and economics that are not as good. So we tried from the very outset to not make any distinction amongst our patients in this sense at all. We take care of everybody. I've always said from loggers to lawyers.
I see, living now in this rural community, that a huge barrier is transportation, whether it's medical, dental, mental health.
We have one pediatric dentist in Vermont, and it's scary to think about that these kids would be driving an hour or two just to find a dentist.
When people aren't used to necessarily having a safe, supportive environment, it's hard to imagine how to get to one or what one's like, even sometimes feeling deserving of one. And then you complicate that with substances and often poverty. And all of these things really kind of create this multi-layer barrier to accessing care, to feeling like there's a sense of belonging or a deserving to get support and nurturing.
Patients who aren't able to access counseling services or kiddos who aren't able to access that, they might kind of spiral downward and might really, really struggle, whether it's depression. It may increase risk of suicidality, self-harm, some of those really scary behaviors that people do face. It's very sad, and it's a concern if they're not able to access quality care.
The problem is when you suffer from psychopathology or bad behavior, you're often not given access to health promotion and illness prevention. You're typically given a prescription. Those prescriptions don't work as well in individuals who've endured a lot of adversity.
Since creating the health center in 1973, Dr. Matthew has sought to deliver individualized, compassionate care, integrating mental health and dentistry with quality primary care, always guided by their motto, healthcare the way it ought to be.
Well, I think that healthcare, first of all, it ought to be the way I would like to be taken care of. I'm going to say the golden rule, do unto others. So I think that healthcare, if you thought through how would it be ideally for me, should be, there are a lot of characteristics. It should be competent. It should be compassionate and caring. It should be thorough. It should be informative. I should be included in the decisions that are made. I should be taught how to take care of myself. But we've always thought that dental was part of healthcare and that mental health was part of good healthcare. We know that if you can attend to all of those aspects of the person, then you're going to make the best health outcome. What our experience has been is if you keep pounding away at risk factors, you reduce disease.
If you've never lifted a weight in your life and you put a dumbbell in your hand and do 5, 10, and 15-pound curls, you'll know your biceps will get bigger and stronger. But all you did is you changed your behavior. You put a dumbbell in your hand, you started curling it. A beautiful example of how the environment and decisions you make can change the structure of a protein, in that case the biceps. So I started studying how the environment impacts the genome and the structure of another protein called the brain, and then the thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that came forward. Those thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors is where all health lives. I started to find out very early that when negative things happen to children, modifications of the genome would follow, something called epigenetics, or turning on and off genes that were quiet, and then changes in brain structure would follow, and things like depression, obesity, dysregulated behavior would come next. That was very sad. Started to teeter the totter and say, well, if bad things lead to bad impact on the epigenome and the brain, what about good things? Could you pump iron for the brain? Could music and mindfulness and yoga and family-based care impact the structure and function of a child's brain and her thoughts, actions, and behaviors?
When I first came here, people in Vermont talked about going to the doctor as doctrine. And you went doctrine when you were hurting or sick. The concept of preventive medicine was not part of the culture. The Vermonters have a kind of funny kind of humor that they set you up for the punchline. So I had this fellow come in one time and he said, Dr. John, some of the fellows down at the store were talking. And they said, I ought to tell you that if you keep this up, there's going to be a whole bunch of us just sitting around with nothing to die of.
We all talk to each other. So we've got, mental health, dental health, physical therapy, all here. And, the physical therapist can come upstairs and say, hey, I'm worried about this person's knee. I think we need imaging. And the mental health provider might come and say, hey, I'm thinking about this for this person. What do you think? And we really try to do a team approach. And it includes the receptionist who's greeting them and making the person feel welcome and greeting them by name. And, we all have an important role to play in this organization.
In order to address the difficulty of transportation in the rural landscape, the health center has many programs such as an outreach health clinic, home visits, and mobile dental unit for kids. Bridging the gaps into the community itself allows for deeper relationships with patients, which in turn creates higher quality care.
I started the Cabot Clinic. I was the first one out there 26 years ago. I love being there because I feel like I'm connected to the school and connected to the people that are taking care of the kids and also the community members that are coming in. And I love doing home visits. It's one of my favorite things, is to just slow down the pace even more and see that individual in their own space, in their own time. In 2 minutes, I understand way more about that person than I ever would have if I hadn't come into their house.
I'm really feeling being elder this year. I'm 89. And as I look at 90, I thought, that is getting to be quite the age. But you do feel a little more isolated if you're living alone. I've been alone now for 21 years. I've decided this winter, I felt the isolation of not driving the car, because usually I'm just independent. I could just go, and now I'm waiting on people. I'm the last one left in my family, so that's a vacancy too. But it's all part of life. Probably not the most pleasant. But, well, it's so very convenient for me to be so close to the clinic. It's such a great service to our community, and people really care. And how many people come for house calls in the middle of the winter? After I put my car up, I really couldn't get to the health center, and that's a real gift to seniors that you come to the house. It's way beyond anything I ever dreamed of, and it's been such a help, as I'm sure it's been to other people too.
The dental van provides care to over 450 Vermont children a year, traveling across the state to schools where there may not be other dental care available. Good dental care is not just for comfort and appearances. It also reduces most chronic disease, such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, stroke, and dementia. The children benefit from repeat visits every 6 months, leading to high-quality, continuous dental care.
We mostly go to rural Vermont schools that, don't have a dentist maybe in the area. Maybe they don't accept their insurance. The closest place that we serve is Twinfield, which is just a couple miles down the road. And I think that was like a real eye-opener to us because we often think, they're 2 miles from a dentist, but, there's so many barriers as far as transportation, missing school, that we noticed that there was a high need at that school, even though it was only, geographically just a couple miles away. Usually we get a high support from the school nurse, and they usually know the families well enough to know what kids don't have a dentist. We look at the free and reduced lunch, and that can be an indicator if they have a high percentage. It kind of correlates. Most kids are excited to come on. We, of course, have some that are nervous. I always tell the nurses or the families is that we work at their speed. So, we have to get the kids in the door and to feel comfortable. And, without that, we're not successful in anything else. Being integrated as an FQHC and as a health center has so many advantages. I mean, we see kids that don't have insurance. Without the dental van, there would be so many kids who wouldn't receive the dental care that they need.
The health center strives to integrate mental health care deeply into the practice, knowing that this can have profound implications for future well-being. Better for the clinicians and the patients, this collaboration between medical and mental health leads to higher quality of care and better outcomes.
46 years ago, everybody thought it was a Pandora's box. You talk to somebody about this stuff and you're going to cause trouble. And now we know that it causes benefit.
We have this history of keeping things like substance abuse and mental health concerns or challenges outside of medical. It's not this expression of what's going on with the whole person, what happened to them, what has led them to here, but really what's going on in the moment with your body system and what are some potentially medication or body interventions. It can feel very overwhelming for medical providers to even go there, even though many medical providers will say, at least 60 to 70% of my day is dealing with substance use or mental health issues. Most people feel more comfortable talking about things like alcohol or mental health concerns with their doctor than they do anyone else.
Having mental health somewhere else means people will access it less. So then having it, I'm going to say, co-located in a practice or in this case, in our campus, makes people more apt to come and have mental health care when they're referred.
And that's why it's so important to have mental health counselor available to help provide support to a patient or take over, so then the medical provider can move on and they know the person's in good hands. This health center is so unique in essence that the medical providers meet twice a week to talk about patient care. I get to attend those meetings, and then we have a monthly mental health medical integration meeting where the mental health clinicians, we might talk about shared patients or talk about what kind of interventions are we doing in the therapy room. And that really helps build trust and safety with medical providers as well, because a lot of medical providers have no idea what's going on in a therapy room.
There are a lot of sidewalk conversations that, just somebody's in and say, hey, I saw so-and-so, he's a lot better. Or I will say, I saw so-and-so, he's a lot worse. And sort of collaboration, some of which is informal, but really works.
During medical or dental appointments, mental health counselors are on call to help with patients in need of their services. The warm handoff allows for much easier access to mental health care as it establishes a safe environment, reduces commonplace stigma, and breaks down logistical barriers such as scheduling and insurance.
So I additionally spend time over in the medical practice where I'm available for what's called a warm handoff or a brief intervention.
I can kind of essentially press a button on my computer and it alerts somebody from the mental health team that I am in room 7 South and that I need some help. Sometimes it's like super urgent, and other times it's more like it would be really nice if this person was able to leave with an appointment.
I struggled to get to this appointment. To make this appointment, I had to call a day in advance and I need to just get in. So to be able to come and make that appointment that same day, right then and there, when I'm able and have the energy or the strength or the mindset to want to grow and to get better.
Hey. Hey, sweetie. Yeah. What's going on?
I'm just been having a tough time. It's a tough time. And I've been trying to figure it out.
How long has it been since you slept well?
I'd say a good couple of weeks.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I really think that we can help you. And I'm really glad you came here today. I think it was the right thing to do. I'm sure it wasn't easy to do, but it still was the right thing to do. And there's one piece of information that we've never gotten from you, something called ACEs, or Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Okay.
About 20 years ago, there was a big public health study, and it showed that adults that had had a lot of stress growing up were much more likely to have diabetes, blood pressure issues, asthma, things that we never knew were related to stress. And we now know is related to stress. So out of that study came something called an ACE score that helps us get a rough 1 to 10 estimate of what was your dose of stress growing up. Was it 10 out of 10, the highest, or was it a 0 or somewhere in between? So the average is like a 4 or 5, but there are lots of people that have 10s. And if I understand what your ACE score is, it's going to help me take better care of you. I don't need to know what, I just want to know how many yeses you have, and you can look at this on your own in a few minutes. But I want you to remember that whatever score you got is not your fault.
When I realized how high my ACE score was, I was slightly surprised because that was my normal. I didn't realize that was abnormal or high. I mean, I just figured that's how people are, that was my normal. It was helpful to have a number. It was helpful to have something tangible, something that was to just put it in perspective. On a scale of this, you're here. I guess understanding that you're on the higher end, so you're struggling, and that's normal. Knowing that it's someone understands this, someone can expect this, someone has seen this before. I'm not alone.
Would you be open to talking to a counselor?
Please.
Okay.
Having Jenna come in the room, it changed my life. I mean, I had been to counselors so many times and been working on this and trying to figure out what's going on. To have someone come in and then be the one to say, oh, I'm going to work with you. To not just be oh, I'm going to pass you to this person, to meet this person, and for her to feel confident enough that she can help me through it was really comforting and hopeful. And I left feeling a lot less alone and misunderstood.
Decades of research has proven that prolonged untreated stress can lead to inflammation in the body, which is a leading cause to chronic diseases. In order to lead the way in compassionate, holistic care, the Health Center offers ACEs education in a family practice setting and prescribes stress reduction and wellness techniques. This education is often instrumental in addressing shame, which can be a major factor in healing.
I wanted this to be a hopeful thing, that there was no life sentence associated with having a high ACEs or adversity score in your childhood, but in fact an invitation to build a healthy brain. I like to use the term brain and brain health, and then ask people, how would you like to build a healthy brain? I haven't found a single child or adult who said no to that. And then coach them up that your body health follows your brain health. And so this beautiful marriage between this brain, which determines whether you exercise or not, sleep or not, smoke or not, and in the context of this discussion, are kind to yourself or your children or not, it all comes from a brain. We needed to be able to explain in a very scientific way how adversity impacts negatively on a child's life, because most people know somebody who came from great adversity and rose up and did wonderful things. So there became this sort of argument where, buck up, get tough. And it turned out that those inspirational people, thank goodness for them, often engaged in the kinds of behaviors, had beliefs and actions that were, in fact, aiding to the development of their healthy life. Most people said, well, if you were abused as a child, you'd have psychopathology or substance abuse, and were sadly prejudiced against those individuals as adults and then prejudiced against that pathway. But as soon as they found out that the same things that put you at risk for sadness, anxiety, and substance abuse were the same things that put you at risk for asthma, diabetes, hypertension, obesity, and cancer, it became much more interesting.
It's pretty certain to me that lots of better practices and health will devolve from our having learned about ACEs. I would say we should get to the point where not knowing an ACEs score is like not taking a blood pressure. Okay? We're not there yet, but it's at least as important.
I have been able to find hope in a medical setting for my patients as a result of talking to them about their stress and having a language with which they can converse with me and other medical providers and or mental health practitioners and not have to get into what it is. Teaching people some skills of what they can do, empowering people to be able to help themselves. And that shows up in a variety of ways.
What if we started prescribing the things that go in the other direction? Good nutrition, good sleep, hydration, mindfulness, yoga, music training, a favorite of mine, exercise. Now we might start to do battle.
Everybody has to find their own way. And so I think that's been another difficulty within the medical establishment and why it's been so slow to embrace it.
The health center has several counselors in local schools in order to integrate mental health deeply in their community. These counselors work with students, families, and staff to create community-wide, intergenerational impacts on well-being.
There is a wide variety of struggles that we see on a daily basis with kids. Depression, anxiety, behavioral, emotional struggles, family struggles like divorce or parents having to work long hours, parents that are incarcerated, substance use, eating disorders. We kind of see it all. A lot of the kids that we're seeing in the schools have significant barriers to treatment otherwise, whether it's transportation or parents working, parents maybe incarcerated, lack of support, family engagement in treatment. And so by being integrated in the schools, we can just help so many more kiddos and try to help their families as well, not just the kid. Another huge benefit to counselors being in schools is being able to collaborate with the school staff. The staff are with the kids all day long. We meet with them for 45 minutes to an hour. And so the staff really have great insight into what they're seeing, what the kids are struggling with behaviorally, emotionally, with peers, socially. It just makes for such a better wraparound care for that kid and that family. Mindfulness doesn't have to be this long meditation practice. It can be as simple as just trying to focus on the present moment, not the past, not the future, the here and now. I find that a lot of people don't really know how to take a true deep breath, really using the full, all the abdominal muscles and really getting deep into your core. And bubble breathing allows me to really break that down on a really basic level. It also provides a visual cue. I ask them to try to blow one giant bubble because you need a slow and steady out breath to build your bubble and make it grow big. And they really grasp it really well, and it's just so fun. And then I send them home with a little container of bubbles and ask them to put it somewhere where they'll see it and practice it. I explain to them, there are so many other mindfulness skills that I can teach you, but your breath is always with you.
In order to manage stress and build resilience, the Health Center promotes a wide variety of outlets to Vermonters. Practitioners help patients to discover their own path to wellness by recommending and encouraging positive activities that have been proven to reduce stress and its inflammatory effects.
Well, what if we fought back? And let's fight back for everybody. Let's not just fight back for kids who have high ACEs scores, but let's create a new kind of medicine that says the following. Stress is everywhere. We're never going to get rid of it. And we're actually not going to be able to reduce it in any individual's lives because most of us choose stress. We seek it out. So what we should do is come up with strategies to help a human being endure the stress in their lives. Tough being a kid. You don't choose your mom and dad, your school, your diet, your friends, where you live. It's also stressful for your adults. So let's help individuals develop a way to react to the stress that they have.
We live in this beautiful state with a beautiful environment, and I think a lot of people in Vermont value that. And I think some techniques to build resilience are just getting outside. Whenever I'm really stressed and I go take a walk in the woods, I always feel better.
It is helpful to have a counselor in school because when we have a counselor in school, if anybody needs support from someone, they can just find the counselor and talk to them. It's helpful for people with depression, anxiety, ADHD. I've been prone to having very bad anxiety attacks and stress attacks to where I'll just break down and I can't do anything. I get super relaxed when I'm out in the woods. I prefer just to be alone in the woods so I can just hear everything. I'm clear my whole body and mind of everything I'm doing, and I just sit there as still as possible, trying not to make any noises. It does help me with my feelings. When I'm usually in the woods, it will help with my stress levels and my anxiety levels. It's just so calming, just being out there, looking at everything. I'm like, this is beautiful. I'm just gonna enjoy it while I'm out here.
I had some issues that I was trying to work through, and a lot of hypervigilance and irritability and sensitivity to loud noises. Just pretty normal stuff. Just in coming back, but I wasn't making any progress, and I just felt like kind of a zombie. And so I got a recommendation to go see a private provider, and I remember after my intake there, the provider came in and he looked at my medication list. He's like, I'm confident we can get you feeling a lot better on 1/4 of what you're taking now. And when I went there, it was, actually being asked questions by somebody that was engaged and was asking how I was doing. And instead of just pills, it was, well, here's some things you can try. And it's not that the VA is bad. It's not that the people there don't care. It's just such a massive system with such a huge influx of people. There's just not the capacity to provide the individualized care that they might like. Got to the point where I finally went medication free. I'd say for over a decade, I exercised twice a year when the Army forced me to, as far as any type of formal exercise. I didn't feel good. I didn't have a lot of energy. I was getting into my mid-30s and my back was always hurting. I need to do something about this. So I got back into the gym, and I have more energy. I feel better. My posture's better. My back doesn't hurt. So it gives you a goal to work towards. When you're stressed or you're upset or you're angry or thinking about stuff, that physical exertion gives you an outlet for it. So it's not just sitting there tearing you up inside. When I get irritated now, when it's not like this outside, I'll grab my headphones and go on a 5 or 6 mile run. In the winter, I just go snowmobiling. That's a workout too. You've never seen somebody upset on a snowmobile.
In 2006, the health center became a federally qualified health center, FQHC, allowing them to broaden their services and reach more patients. This extension of services actually reduces the cost of healthcare for the whole community, as preventative approaches have profound impacts on improving Vermonters' health.
When I talked to Dr. Matthews, I said, "You realized your dream." Because when he first came, I remember going to the little house on the hill, and then all of a sudden, these little health centers are such a help to the rural areas.
We are really able to serve rural Vermonters in a way that is innovative and has greater freedoms than some of the designated agencies.
Becoming an FQHC gave us some outside money to support some of those services. And so, we're part now of this great big movement of federally qualified health centers that take care of millions of Americans. Now, what they know is that if the feds spend $1, on average, they save 3. So it's a very cost-effective program. And that's, for example, if you did a good job taking care of blood pressure, you would reduce the long-term expense in nursing homes for people that had a stroke. If you don't care about people, but you could care about economics, it's better to keep people healthy, working, contributing, doing well, as opposed to sick, disabled, and unable to function as well. Despite the fact that we have more populations a bit poorer and a bit older and substantially sicker than average, and yet our average healthcare costs are always at the bottom. I think that's the aggregate effect of all sorts of things. Good medical care, good pharmacologic management, paying attention to psych and to dental and to ACEs, and having people helped in ways that are not in all conventional practices, like just a prescription. So there are a lot of things that are on the frontier. And I think doing things like that for the clientele that we're responsible for is responsible and important. But we're also always trying to tweak. How can it get reimbursed? How can we carry that service?
In order to create opportunities for the community to access wellness practices, the health center has a variety of groups open to the public. This extends wellness building into the community beyond direct patients of the health center, further promoting Vermonters building resilience, self-care, and stress reduction.
We offer currently this art and therapy group with the understanding that people that are struggling with depression or anxiety, they're not engaging in pleasant events. They're not really engaging in a lot of coping skills. People come together, there's music, there's art supplies, and they're given a task to do, to just engage in activity, to lose a sense of time, in essence. When you do that repeatedly, weeks on end, it then can open you up to actually feel a sense of calm. People are reporting significant reductions in stress, increases in motivation to engage in self-care activities. Having a community to practice mindfulness with is really a way to support practice and also feel the benefits of people coming together and having community that you can express difficulties without judgment and without anyone trying to fix it either, just being a witness. So it was really important to have something that was free and accessible to our community.
I enjoyed the parenting class. I enjoyed hanging out with other moms who understand and having different experiences. I also enjoyed getting a little break, but also doing something helpful and productive for my family. It felt good to be able to have time, but also knowing that I'm going to be able to put it right back into my family.
Local farmers provided a CSA share for all the group participants. They got a warm, home-cooked meal using the produce that was in the CSA share that they then get to take home and practice with. And then they get some nutrition information from the dietitian. And then I can provide support for any parenting concerns or struggles that they're facing.
The advice that they share, I can actually go home and use or not use. It's all my choice at that point, but able to incorporate into my life, then my children can benefit from that too. So it's like a win-win.
Vermont now has a chance to lead the way and become a model for trauma-informed, compassionate care, both in the exam room and through community initiatives. This model allows for other communities, both in Vermont and across the country, to see the value and impact of incorporating an integrated, compassionate approach to medicine.
I stay in Vermont because I believe it has the possibility of establishing not only good practices, but best practices that we can prove work, that we can then send to the rest of the country. What really needs to be co-located in these medical homes is someone who's expert in the assessment of not only adversity, but the assessment of emotional behavioral health, and then knows how to prescribe health promotion, illness prevention. So I think the first frontier we're going to have to overcome is people getting comfortable with the fact that they have brains, and when brains are stressed, they get sad, bad, naughty, quirky, and inattentive. So we should talk about it. We should remove all that from the back room and say the experience of emotional behavioral problems is ubiquitous, it's definitional. We need to help you. We should work hard to help moms be healthy and help dads be healthy. And in that way, we'll help kids be healthy. And we like to tell our parents all the time, if you don't want to accept what we're offering you just on the face value, accept it for your kid. And so the message I'd like to say to parents is, you deserve help, go get help, because it'll be good for your child.
There's so many examples of people that are doing better as a result of decreasing their stress response. And I can see it in terms of, sleep improving, less social anxiety, less eating disorders, less self-abusive behaviors, better connections with their family, doing better in school. I mean, the list just goes on and on.
If people don't find the help they need, one of the greatest losses is they miss their appointment with life. We don't get a second go around as far as we all know. This is it. When they don't feel safe to be present in the world and in their relationships, we miss out on living.
When I started seeing the enormity of the suffering that my patients had gone through, I saw their courageousness and determination and resilience. And it was really, it blew me away. If we could come together and really start talking about this and figuring out what would it look like, in an educational setting or a legal setting or a mental health setting, and imagine if everybody was trained up on this stuff at the same time, because then we could really get somewhere.
Working with Jen has been amazing. I probably am going through the roughest time in my life now, but mentally, I'm the healthiest I've been and have so much more understanding for everything. I think feeling better has changed my kids' lives, not only my lives, but my kids' lives. They seem happier. Well, they are happier. They don't seem happier, they're happier. And they've grown a lot. Derek's learned how to read because we're able to work with him more and more energy, and Benji's talking, and things have been a lot better. Better looks calm. Not a calm like the kids, it's still chaotic and my house is not perfect, but within me, I'm calm. I feel grounded. I feel safe. If I don't have what I need or if I can't find what I need, I know I have a support system or some people to turn to who can help point me in the right direction and to help me grow. So I feel confident, secure. I just feel more stable. I don't feel so lost.
shine our light on those who live in darkness. Walk beside the lonely and the lost. The tender song of the wounded dove heals the hidden brokenness in us. 'Cause hope begins in the dark. The stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. You wait and watch and work it, don't give up. Hope begins in the dark. The stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. You wait and watch and work it, don't give up. You wait and watch and work